I am not Araba. I'm Michele Frix, her colleague. I also work at the Technology and Social Change Group, which was formerly the Center for Information and Society at the University of Washington. Araba could not be here today, and she's very sorry that she could not, but I'll be presenting in her place. I'll try to act as if I'm not reading her presentation, but I am. But I encourage you to come to mine tomorrow because I'll be much more riveting and not reading directly from a piece of paper. Araba is a research associate with the Technology and Social Change Group. She has done work related to investigating mobile payphones in Africa as well as public access to ICTs in Ghana. As you can see here, over the last 10 years, mobile phone subscriptions in Ghana have risen sharply from less than 200,000 in the year 2000 to almost 12 million in 2009. This figure is taken to mean that about 50% of the population own a mobile phone. In addition, statistics such as these are used in association with stories about benefits experienced by mobile phone users to buttress arguments about the socio-economic impact of mobile phones in developing countries. There are, however, at least two issues that should be accounted for to put adoption figures into context, especially since these high adoption numbers have not as yet led to demonstrable economic development on a national level, which various people have mentioned today. First is that counting SIM cards is an inaccurate measure of mobile phone subscribers numbers, considering several people in the country own multiple SIM cards, which I've also found in my research in Latin America as well, as I'm sure others have. The second is that in order for mobile telephony to have a significant and high-level impact on socioeconomic life, there should be both critical mass of uses and critical mass of users. I will briefly describe actual phone subscribers' ability to use their mobile phones to full benefit and the costs associated with mobile phones use in Ghana and how that has an impact on the full benefit use. Here you can see some of the unit breakdown of some of the costs associated with mobile phone use in Ghana. Although mobile phone handset and airtime costs have been falling worldwide, airtime costs in particular have been slow to drop in Ghana. In a 2004 study of the mobile phone industry, it was noted that despite having one of the most competitive markets on the continent with 4 network providers, the cost of mobile phone airtime was not falling. In 2006, when the minimum daily wage was just over $1, users of the most popular network, I would say Arriba, but someone might be able to correct me on my pronunciation, were paying about $1 for 6 to 10 minutes of local talk time. Thus, users are limited in their ability to make extensive use of this communication tool. Briefly about her study objective and framework. The research question was essentially how are mobile phones being adapted in local local conditions in Ghana. With this in mind, the study set out to find was framed by global expectations that mobile telephony is the communication technology that will launch developing countries fully into the information society, and the concept of technology appropriation, the process by which people adapt technology to their unique circumstances. Araba's goal was not only to identify appropriations of mobile phones, but also to discover the reasons for these adaptations. Her methodology was mainly data collection methods that were in-depth interviews and field observations. They were supplemented with non-random surveys to explore emerging issues within a broader population. The purpose of this approach was to capture the complexity of user-level activity and keep the research open to new developments over time. Her primary research sites were Osu, a commercial district in Accra, Pram Pram, a fishing community close to Accra, and Api Manim, a farming village in the Ashanti region. And I deeply apologize if I just butchered those names, so please correct me afterwards. The interview and other qualitative data were analyzed by reading transcripts and field notes and identifying themes, similarities, and differences. She computed frequencies and did some basic statistical analysis on the survey data. And note that due to the non-randomized nature of the sample selection, these surveys results presented are not meant to be generalized on a national scale. Here were some of the user strategies to manage costs, which she mentioned that I would be touching on in this presentation. You can see that a major finding of this study was that mobile phone users are demonstrating a variety of creative usage patterns, most of which have been noted in other developing countries as well, and I feel that will probably be mentioned various times throughout the next couple days. The significant issue is that this innovative behavior is driven primarily by affordability challenges. Mobile phone users constrained by financial limitations have found creative ways to combine mobile phone services in order to cut down the cost of owning and using a mobile phone. These include subscribing to multiple networks, balancing when to use prepaid cards, electronic airtime transfers, payphone or other people's phones, generating missed calls, and making the majority of social calls at night, keeping calls short, and for the literate population, using text messages. Oh, I don't know why that. And I encourage you to read her paper, which she goes into further detail of those different strategies. These comments up here are from interview respondents indicate that these strategies are designed to enable users to deal with the high cost of airtime. These practices are described in more detail in this paper, and the main point here is that even though respondents had been able to overcome one access barrier, which was the cost of the actual mobile phone handset, they were yet to overcome a second barrier, the actual cost of airtime. So you see what Sylvia mentions here is I flash a lot because I sometimes try to keep my units. I don't want my credit book to get empty. Flashing in Ghana apparently is what is referred to as beeping in other areas. And there was I went to a presentation that Arba did, and she goes into really interesting subculture of flashing techniques and when it's appropriate for someone to flash someone else, and when it's appropriate to return a call once you've been flashed, and how you know which of your friends are just flashing you because they want to bother you, or other friends that actually need something. So in basically conclusion, despite the advances that have been made in mobile telephony in developing countries, a resultant economic big push will not be attained until we have more people making more use of the technology. And this will require a significant reduction in usage costs. The results of this research provide evidence that the statement by Gwald and SLR is still relevant. They also demonstrate that it is important to uncover underlying reasons for technology appropriations in order to properly appreciate the implications of technology appropriation. The innovative behaviors identified in this study are as much a symptom of the problem as they are evidence of user innovativeness. Admittedly, as a result of observing user strategies, mobile phone network providers have been exploring ways to provide even lower cost products and services to consumers. However, their commercial orientation means that services are still priced out of the reach of most users. Where one would expect policymakers to actually step in and facilitate lower pricing, the Ghanaian government recently imposed a tax on airtime use, thereby increasing the cost of airtime and negating earlier trends towards lowering prices. Thus, although users have found ways to gain access to mobile telephony, the total cost of ownership, including the handset and airtime, is such that they often have to limit their use to the barest minimum. And while users are definitely experiencing important benefits, the limitations on their ability to make full use of the mobile phone is limited and limits the extent of which the benefits that they receive. This in all likelihood also slows the process from the micro level use to the macro level impact. Thank you from Araba.